Missouri State Twitter, which is a platform that I run, but also for really social media accounts in general, for what we call the university proper, which would be Missouri State Facebook, Missouri State Twitter. Instagram doesn't really factor into crisis communications, but that's kind of a really broad overview of what we want to do, what I want to talk about here tonight. A little bit about me. I graduated from Missouri State in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in journalism, and I had some real-world jobs and internships in the journalism industry, and it just didn't feel quite right for me. And I figured out pretty quickly after I did a graduate assistantship with our athletics communications office here that I really wanted to be more on the PR, media relations side of things that jived better with my personality, jived better with the kind of messaging and creativity that I wanted to have. So, with that said, I have absolutely fallen in love with social media since I started in this position in December 2014. So I've been on the job a little bit more than a year, and I really love, well, I shouldn't say I love getting out of bed every morning at 6:30, that's not true. But what does get me out of bed every morning at that time is the fact that I've lived in Springfield for my entire life, and Missouri State's always kind of really held a special place in my heart for a number of reasons, kind of with athletics first, but it's just a really special place for me. So, when you talk about dream jobs, getting to work in these offices with university communications and web and new media for Missouri State is like a dream come true. So, onward and upward from here, I hope, but I love everything about my job, love Missouri State athletics, and I especially get the opportunities I enjoy, like going to a conference in Milwaukee. This is me and the Bronze Fawns out there. Has anybody in here ever been to Milwaukee and seen this thing before? It's pretty cool. It's like the top tourist destination of the entirety of Milwaukee, I think, and it's probably about 5 foot 8 inches tall, about as tall as I am, and yeah, I love that picture. Love that picture so much. My hair is kind of, spiky, so. And one of the things about my job is sometimes we do have to deal with crisis situations, and that's probably like the least fun part of it, because most of the time, crises are unexpected to some degree, right? So it's kind of like you're kind of rolling along with your day and everything's great, and then something happens, and then we've got to shift gears entirely and drop what we're doing and go into this crisis messaging management mode. So with that said, this is the overview of the 4 things that I want to share with you, and basically they're just elements of the steps that we take to make sure that our crisis plan is executed to the fullest. And those things are being prepared, being consistent, being clear in the messaging that we're sending out, and being available. So what I'll do is talk about each one of those in general, and then provide an example or 2 for each one that'll hopefully illustrate the concept for you a little bit more. So first off, being prepared. It's so important just to be able to anticipate in advance what could happen. So you need to know what you would say in a lot of situations should they come up. And to that end, our office in Web and New Media keeps a shared document on our servers that has messaging for several possible situations, including but not limited to severe weather, which is when you'd see there's like a tornado blowing through, about to blow through campus. That's when you'd see Twitter and Facebook, Missouri State saying take cover, or get to the lowest floor of your building that you can. Those things are already set and ready to go, so we can just copy and paste and get it out to you as soon as possible. School closings, of course, is another one. Believe it or not, yes, that is a crisis situation, and I'll explain to you why here in just a second. And knock on wood, this never happens, but it's happened before. It may happen again if we have a really threatening situation on campus in general, in terms of a dangerous person possibly being on campus for whatever reason. We have messages ready to go and shared, and we know where they are, so we can act as quickly as possible as soon as we get notified by Safety and Transportation, or whoever it is that shares that message with us. So I realized, like, I kind of wanted this part to be a surprise because I wanted to like ask. I had a question, but I kind of did a huge reveal on this page. But you know, the most common crisis situation at Missouri State happens in the winter, and that is, oh my God, it's snowing. Please cancel class. How many of you have ever tweeted at Missouri State or at Cliff to please cancel class? It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, you can vent. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool, it boosts my engagement rates and it makes me look good. So, appreciate you all telling us to cancel class and, you know, close the university for the year or whatever it is.
For the year.
So I wanted to share the process that goes into effect whenever we know we're gonna have ice, you know, we know we're gonna have snow, some kind of winter weather is gonna come through that possibly could disrupt the class schedule for the next day or that evening or what have you. And basically here's what happens, is as soon as possible, like the night before we think something's coming, we've got people with facilities, grounds maintenance, our VP of Information Services, they're all constantly talking, they're watching the radar, they are, you know, checking campus conditions as things deteriorate or get better or what have you, and basically those people are sometimes on campus at like 1 or 2 in the morning, trying to clear off sidewalks, clear off steps to buildings, all that stuff. And in terms of whether or not we cancel classes, that decision is made before 6 a.m. on a day where it would be like the entire day is wiped out. You know, we had an instance like a month ago where we called off evening classes, and it's, you know, it's more of a sudden kind of decision whenever that happens. But for the purposes of this discussion, it's a really early call. So that message, stay open or close, is then relayed to my boss, our director of web and media, Sarah Clark, who then sends me a text message, usually about 5:30 or 5:45 in the morning. And that text message tells me what the decision is, if we need to share an update on social media, and I'm just ready to say classes are canceled, classes are in session, whatever the decision is. And then usually I go back to sleep no matter what, because even if we're, you know, the university's open, classes are in session, you know, I've got at least another good hour of sleep I can get in there. So that's like the most common thing that happens where we have to spring into action and let you all know what the deal is for that day. So I screenshotted a couple of tweets here. One is classes are canceled for Tuesday, February 17th, and these were from last year. Due to inclement weather, Springfield campus offices will be open. So this was a case, I believe it was after President's Day, where all the decision makers, not just Cliff, by the way, he kind of makes that final call, but he gets a lot of advice from people. So it's just really basic messaging saying, you know, we're closed, we're open, and then that link sends you to a page on MissouriState.edu that constantly says closed or open. So it just gets updated and switched depending on the situation. The other tweet on the right says the campus is open and classes will be held on March 5th, same deal. The thing I wanted to point out that made me laugh was look at the difference in engagement on these things. 264 retweets on the one that said classes are canceled, and the one that said we're open, you know, don't really want to share that. But it's, I understand. You know, having a surprise day off from work is a good deal for me too, a lot of the time. So that just made me laugh. Next thing is making sure that we're being consistent in the messages that we're sending out. And this one is especially important, I think, because when we start dealing with more serious, like non-winter weather related crises, it's really important that messaging from the 2 offices that I work in, you know, Web and Media, which handles MissouriState.edu and social media, and the other office is University Communications, which is more of your traditional media relations, news releases, that kind of a thing. So it's important that we're all on the same page. So whenever something happens, we all start, discussing and talking about, running the discussion up the ladder to president's office or whoever it may be, and make sure that we've got that messaging down and clear. And the messages need to make sure that they match on those news releases, on social media, and also on media interviews as well. Whenever we've got some big story coming out, and KY3 or the news leader or something often calls our office to say, can I get an interview with Cliff or whoever it is they want to talk to, and then we've got to make sure the messages are, that we can deliver are consistent across all those platforms. Anybody have any questions so far? Kind of going through it here. So here's an example of a recent really series of situations that we would consider to be crises, because with all the protests that have happened on campus, changes in leadership in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, it's been kind of a series of steps that we've taken with our messaging. And this image on the right was the screenshot of the very top part of the news release that we sent out that announced Wes Pratt and Gilbert Brown as our new leaders in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and all the different measures that were being taken. All of which started from a student list of demands that came out that Cliff and the leadership team up top responded to on December 1st. And then that kind of led into the situation with Ken Coopwood, an investigation going into universities' diversity practices and possible discrimination against Ken, and that revealed the investigation revealed that there were no there was no basis for racially motivated discrimination against him. And then a few days later, we found out he was going to resign, so then we have to get that messaging straight, and then we announced the changes up top. So this was one that was kind of particularly challenging, just because it was something that continued to unfold over time. And this is the kind of thing that can happen. We're often, crisis situations are not just one-offs. There may be residual stories that you as public relations professionals would have to send out consistently over the course of a month or a year, or however long it happens. So, next thing is to make sure that you're being clear and knowing that you understand your message inside and out, so you can clearly tell people what's going on to the extent that you can. You've got to make sure that the right details are being sent out, and that also helps you serve to clear up any misconceptions that happen along the way. And here's another example. We've had, really late last year, we had a series of, I think, 7 reported sexual assaults on campus. And I'm sure many of you probably got those alerts via email or text when that was going on. And what can happen sometimes is, like, the whole story doesn't really get out there and communicated very clearly. And so part of my job is not only to, I don't even know how to describe what I do on Twitter, riff almost, because a lot of the things that I post just kind of pop into my head at any given time, and I just quickly decide would this be okay to send, and I do it. But part of the other job is making sure that I'm monitoring the social media channels as much as I can, especially when we've got something going on, like diversity initiatives and these reported sexual assaults. And Ashley, are you in here? Ashley, not in here. Okay. There's just some confusion, on what the sexual assaults meant to some people. Because, you know, when you've got a reported 7 sexual assaults that happened over the course of, you know, 3 or 4 months, it's a lot. It's entirely too many. You know, these kinds of things should not be happening ever on any campus, and it's just terribly sad. You know, but, you know, what she tweeted here to us was that KY3 just said Missouri State University had 7 sexual assault reports this month, which was not true. There were 7 since the start of the semester. So, you know, part of my approach with social media in general, whether, you know, we're just talking about fun stuff or if we're talking about things that aren't so fun like this, is it's really important that we're using these platforms, especially Twitter, but every social media platform, for its intended purpose, which is to talk to people. I don't know, in my opinion, you know, Twitter and Facebook have all kind of gotten ruined to some extent by brands, you know, like in universities too, because it's real easy to try to use it as a megaphone instead of a telephone and constantly like shouting your message out to the world. And it's not for advertising, because when Facebook started, like 10 or 11 years ago and really got ramped up, it was just like a cool way for people to communicate with each other across country boundaries and state boundaries. So with that being said, like talking to people as Missouri State is one of the things that I enjoy the very most, even in situations like this, because I think I can really help. So what I did here was respond to Ashley and say, you know, we've had 7, yes, but they've been reported since the start of the semester, not this month. And also the fact that education is like increasing the reporting of these assaults, because sexual assault is, I think, the most underreported crime that there is right now. So she responded and said, that's crazy, and she's right. And so I responded back to say, you know, we don't believe that the number of sexual assaults is increasing. We just think that the reporting is, and that's good, because we can, you know, pull back the veil on a crime like this and over time get it to stop, which is really the end goal here. And she said, you know, it's just a shame that things like this happen. It breaks my heart. And she's absolutely right. And also in that second tweet, that bit.ly link went out to a news release that we put out from the University Communications side. Yeah.
I was curious, since Ashley posted on the KY3 just said Missouri State University had 7 sexual assaults reported this month, did you go back to KY3 source and attempt to see if they had actually said that type of information? Or did you just assume that she misinterpreted the information from KY3?
I actually didn't go back and check, again, because this is, I think, one of my faults is I can just, you know, I just want to respond just as quickly as I can with the messaging, again, that we have previously prepared, where we said, you know, this is the truth, this is what we're going to say. But yeah, that's a good point. You know, it would have been a really good idea to go back and see if KY3 actually said that. I wouldn't say I just assumed she was wrong, but, you know, I kind of took her tweet at face value and just wanted to clear it up from our side and say this is actually what's going on.
I was just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question. Another good thing to make sure that you do is kind of going back to this concept of, you know, transparency and talking to people. You know, if you are in a situation or a job where you have, you're acting as a brand or, you know, business or whatever it's going to be, this even goes beyond crisis management. It's just a good social media practice in general, I think, to, you know, talk to people, have conversations, you know, even if you shouldn't be in every single conversation in the world, you just want to make sure that you're there whenever people do have like a problem with your product or your service or whatever it is. Make sure that you're there to answer their questions and answer their concerns. And the reason that's important is, you know, my experience and everything that, you know, people tell me who also run social media accounts is that showing that you care empathy is like the greatest way to disarm a potentially, flammable situation, if you will. And, that goes back to that's what social media was made for. It was made for people to talk to each other. And yes, you can act like a person and a human being behind your, Missouri State Carrington logo, or, whatever, I think it's the Carrington logo, whatever that thing is on her Twitter account. So here's another example from Zach Russell. Guys, I see something like this, I don't know, 3 to 4 times a week, at least. Build another parking garage at Missouri State. Please build another parking garage. I can't build a parking garage. Yeah. I'm sorry. I want to, like I said, I love this place, and I want every student here to see what I see in it, and I understand that convenient parking is a big issue, especially if you get here. What's the worst time to get here to find a parking spot?
Like 10.
I think
10?
Yeah.
Are Tuesdays and Thursdays still worse than Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then it's really not much different than what I experienced when I was a student from 10 years ago, 2006 to 2011. But this is, for me, this is like a crisis situation, because it's another thing that happens a lot because it's frustrating. You don't find a parking spot, you're running behind for class, and then, there's consequences for being late to class. And I've seen some people say, well, I just turned around and went home. I just skipped. But, we are, as the main Twitter account for the university, we are like the touch point. That it's the first thing, it's just interesting that it's like the first thing on our minds, whether it's Missouri State or something else, is to hit up the Twitter account, to say, this sucks, whatever it is. This could really be improved. And really, Zach had a bad morning here. So Bear Park South is a freaking war zone. In minutes, a spot was taken from underneath me, and I was rear-ended. At Missouri State, we need more parking, shouting. And again, I see that show up in my TweetDeck feed, and I'm like, I know, dude. I know, there's just not much we can do. So I engaged in a conversation with Zach. And again, this top message here is something that we've been encouraged to share with students, because there's 3 parking lots up north. You're smiling. You know about these parking lots?
Yes.
Yes. You don't want anyone else to know, do you?
No, it's just funny. I like that response because it's funny.
Yeah.
Because people complain about parking.
I asked that because I've been sending this message so much, and somebody said, oh no, at one of their friends, our secret lot's going to be filled up now.
Oh.
So, yeah. So this is the message. We have more parking because it's real easy to just go south, and just, if you don't find a spot in Bear Park South, or the one by Hammond Student Center, or the lot that is next to Harrison Street, where they built the new clinic. If you don't find a spot there, it's well, screw it, this is ridiculous. But we do have more parking, and I am actually partially here to tell you that if you ever come across a situation where you're running, a little bit close to time, you need to be here, and you're driving around frustrated for half an hour trying to find a lot south, go north on Elm. There's 3 lots there that are orange lots if you're commuters. Okay, you can get in there with your yellow pass and use it. So anyway, long story short, I've sent this tweet a lot. He responded and said, I appreciate the sentiment, but the more permanent solution is in dire need. Again, it's yes, you are absolutely right. We could use more parking. If we continue to add more students as we grow as a university, we're going to need to build another parking garage, or we're going to need to, build a lot somewhere or something. And so I just kind of prodded for a little bit more information, what do you mean by permanent solution? What can we do? Provide us with a suggestion that I might be able to run up the ladder or something like that. And he said, a new garage would be amazing. And again, we're still just kind of in the same mode, right? Where it's, you know, I'm 31 years old. I'm like kind of a low rung on the ladder over in my own office. So it's like, for me, there's not much I can do except for listen to this person and explain to him that, you know, we hear you, we get it, you know. And so I said, that's right, you know, in the meantime, just know you don't have to fight for spots in the south end. Go to the orange and rainbow lots that we mentioned. Now, without turning the page, nobody turned the page and sheet. What do you think Zach said next?
It's too far.
Anything else? Any other guesses? Okay, let's just put it this way: like, positive or negative? How many people think his response was positive?
I think negative.
How many people think it was negative? That was the very next tweet that he sent. Thanks for communicating with me. I appreciate it. Because, you know, think about, you know, if you were in this situation, and it wouldn't even be, you know, tweeting to Missouri State. It would be, I don't know. You know, you had a bad meal at a restaurant. You know, you had bad service or whatever it is, and you hit up the Twitter account for the restaurant. That person is probably on the East Coast or something if it's a chain, and there's really not a whole lot that that person can do to like fix the situation, like really fix it. But when we're managing social media channels, what we can do is show people that we're listening and that we care enough to take the time to hear them out. And I have not yet had a situation with this approach where it went bad. It really didn't. You know, sometimes it just reaches a point where, you know, agree to disagree, that kind of a situation where you know that it's just going to continue to be butting your head against the wall because, you know, the message just isn't getting through. And at that point, sometimes I'll give up on it, you know, and there's just like nothing else we can say that will appease a certain situation. So, you know, it's like people say that social media, Twitter is killing face-to-face interaction. And I don't really think that's true. I just think the platform is changing because the same principles behind, you know, trying to say hi to somebody out downstairs in the lobby and they just like keep walking, you know, they ignore you. That doesn't make you feel very good. It makes you think negatively about that person. But it's just about taking the time to care enough to listen and talk and give back and let people know, you know, I can't fix it, but, you know, we hear you and we'll do what we can going forward. So, you know, real quick, just 4 lessons that I've learned. You can never be too prepared. You know, it's really helpful to know what you're going to say whenever these things come up, especially common situations for us, like winter weather, bad spring weather, you know, I can't find a parking spot, all of those things. If you can anticipate those situations, no matter what business you're in, if you're running a social media account, that's going to help save you time, so you might be able to focus on the things that you really want to focus on. Be there and answer questions when people have them. It's really just like good manners, right? You know, so that helps diffuse situations. You know, be as transparent as you can possibly be. That also helps you build credibility as an organization whenever, you know, you're delivering all of the information that you can out to everybody. And, you know, lastly, over communicate. And what I mean by this is, you know, you're probably going to be working in a setting with different people. So it's really important just to keep that line of communication open with everybody that you work with. Even people who may not be in your office, because you never know when you're going to need a friend. You know, for us, have a friend in safety and transportation, a friend with a certain college on campus, certain dean, a professor, you know, whoever it is, because when the crisis hits, you're not going to have time to start, you know, making friends with people and try to get in people's good graces. So, you know, build those relationships. I know I heard it I heard that phrase like a million times when I was doing my undergrad here, but it really is true, and it will help you out in crisis management situations as well. So finally, just wanted to share with you guys some resources that are available to you. Not maybe in more of a broad sense than a crisis sense, but Webinu Media has a blog that we update frequently with digital public relations materials, like we'll post social media kits for commencement, public affairs conference, all that big stuff that goes on campus. We've got our website at missouri-state.edu/web that's available for anybody to go on and get information on services we offer, like design, that kind of stuff. Also best practices for social media is on that site too, so if you're interested in that stuff, you can check that out. And also me, I am on Twitter. I'm addicted to Twitter. I find myself lying in bed at night, and it's like I need my fix of my phone. It's getting kind of scary. If it's just lying there for 10 minutes, I have to, there's absolutely nothing happening, but yikes, right? So don't do that. Or, I'm at Kevin_AG, or my email is kevinag @missouri-state.edu. If any of you have questions, or you just want to talk social media or PR, whatever it is, feel free to send me an email. But in the meantime, Chris, I don't know how we're doing on time here.
You can keep going.
Okay. Just wanted to take the opportunity right now, if you guys have any questions about what we do crisis management wise, or even why we run our social media channels the way that we do, anything like that, I'd be happy to answer that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, me, so I
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, how long have you ran the Twitter account?
Since I started in December of 2014.
Okay. Because I feel like more recently, I feel like last semester, everybody started saying how Missouri State, oh, tweets are fire and stuff like that. I feel like you got funnier and a little bit more combative with people. So I'm just good for you, because it's I started following Missouri, because I didn't follow Missouri State, I would just see other people's retweets. And then when you started being super funny and stuff like that, I was like, yes, I'm following this account. This is hysterical. So just letting you know, I think you do a great job. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I can tell you a story about how it got to be what it is now, because I will always remember the moment it kind of switched over for me too. Because whenever I started, it's first day on the job, or even the first few months, you don't want to ruffle any feathers and try to do any radical stuff, just to kind of keep the peace, so people aren't going who's this new guy, and why is he changing everything that we do? Yeah. So I tried this model kind of very lightly of hyper engagement and talking and being more casual. Because when I started, I had this concept in my head of, what if Missouri State didn't sound like you would expect a university to sound? What would happen? And I'm kind of a mad scientist in that sense, and that I'm kind of interested just to see what would happen if I did this within reason. Nobody go out there and try something uber dangerous, because you all know it's social media pitfalls. It's really easy to get in trouble in a big hurry if you don't post the right thing. But anyway, this right here, this was the moment everything kind of switched for me. Kansas City Royals, World Series champions. I was personal story. I was 10 months old when they won the World Series in '85. So what happened in October/early November was a very, very special thing for me in my life, since I'd seen a lot of bad baseball over the last 20 years. And the cool thing is, a lot of Missouri State students did too. And what happened was, the night that they announced when the parade was going to be, did anybody in here go to that? Nobody else? Okay. The night that they announced when they were going to have the parade in Kansas City, Missouri State was hit with a deluge of tweets from people I'm not sure if they were serious or not. Please cancel classes, close the university, we want to go to the parade. And they were coming in fast and furious. Again, like I'm seeing this 9, 10 p.m., you know, the night before, and I sent a tweet that said something to the effect of, if you want to go, then just go. You know, it's like we are not going to close the university so, you know, a small percentage of you can go to a parade and have zero consequences for your actions, right?
Yeah.
And that was the moment it kind of flipped. And I saw the impact that particular tweet had, because I have to go back and see like how many times it was retweeted. Just really the point, the exact number. It was like more engagement than I'd seen on anything that I tweeted previously. And all I did was basically, it's amazing, tell people, you know, you're grown-ups, make your own decisions, you know, there are consequences for your actions. But, you know, the kind of the undercurrent of this was, as a university, we cannot encourage you to skip class, but the undertone of it was, you know, you may never get to do this again. So it's like, if you want to go, then you should just go. And I think the reason why that took hold was because it was very bold. It was kind of an in-your-face kind of response. I didn't want to be rude, but honestly, it kind of came from a place of I wanted the tweets to stop to some extent. And just, you know, I couldn't respond to every single person, so I just did like one big one and said, look, you guys want to go to Kansas City, you should do that. And work it out with your instructors, you know, all that good stuff, because that's something you got to do. Sometimes you get jobs. You know, there may be times you want to go do something fun, and that's called taking a vacation day. And there's things you've got to do to, you know, make sure that that doesn't harm the rest of your office. But my God, I'm 31 and like preaching about, you know, personal responsibility. Good question. Good question. So I mean, that's why.
Yeah, I was wondering like why it changed so not suddenly, but kind of suddenly.
Yeah, kind of suddenly, and it kind of goes back to the only thing that matters is what your audience likes on social media in general. Our message is important. You know, the public affairs mission, you know, goals of the university, diversity initiatives, those things take precedence over everything else, you know. But if we can couch it in such a way that it's understandable to people and understandable in a certain voice to, you know, our main audience, which is all of you, then that's what we're going to do, you know, just so we're giving you all the content and the discussions that you want. So, yeah, you have your hand up too. Yeah.
Well, like you said, it was, I'm assuming you tweet, so you just sent like a big tweet.
Yeah.
Do you usually tweet back to every single person?
No.
No?
No, I mean, there are some things that, I don't know, people can say some nasty stuff, you know, behind, you know, social media wall, so to speak. So, I mean, I don't respond to everything. But generally speaking, if there's a question that somebody has that I think I could help this person, then yes, you know, I respond as, you know, as quickly and with as much information as I can possibly deliver. But, you know, sometimes, you know, there are conversations that you either don't belong in or you don't want to be in the middle of. So, yeah, I would say most things I respond to, but not everything. Yes?
I was wondering, do you use like a specific platform to manage all of the different social media? What do you use?
We have a system called Sprout Social, which is a system that delivers analytics for Missouri State proper, Facebook and Twitter. The Alumni Association uses it too to track their stats on social, and it also allows us to schedule posts out, which I probably don't do enough of. That scheduling posts in advance really is a time saver, but I don't know, I should probably do it more, but it doesn't really work for the way I want to be doing things in like real time. So we use that. We use TweetDeck also. We've got columns set up for not just mentions, but columns set up to see whenever people might just say Missouri State and not tag us. So yeah, we can see that stuff. And you know, we've got, you know, Office of Emergency Management in a list over there. So if there's something going on locally, you can see that. So I'd say those are the two primary ones, and then Facebook kind of just posts natively on the Facebook.com platform most of the time. Anything else? All right, well, hey, thank you very much for having me. Like I said, it's always a lot of fun to talk social media with people, so it's a joy to be here. So if you'll enjoy the rest of your class, have a good evening.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.